Hey, it's Aaron, and I'm on my way back into the middle of the boonies, and I thought I'd do a little bit of a video since I have a few minutes, well, a few hours to actually do one. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, some of the people that I had to interact with while I was in Edmonton, and one of them happened to be a Liberal. Now, I don't get a whole lot of chances to actually talk to Liberals because I live in a majority conservative part of the country, so my interactions with Liberals are really quite sparse. So it was interesting to finally have an actual interaction with one of them, and it just so happened that they were vegan, and we started to talk a little bit about that because I don't really know a whole lot about veganism. So she brought up this whole idea about how they can't, as vegans, eat honey. And this was kind of confusing to me. I thought to myself, why is it exactly that vegans can't eat honey? So I asked them. Now, whether or not their response was 100% true, or if you out there have a better response, definitely leave it in the comment section below. But they basically said that they can't eat honey because it's an animal byproduct, and it's not necessarily the fact that the honey comes from the animal, because bees kind of make honey. They don't necessarily produce honey like a cow produces milk. They kind of take pollen and they eat it and then they regurgitate it, creating honey. So it's a little bit of a different process. But they said that the main reason why they don't eat honey is because of the cruelty involved in factory farming bees to get honey. And I said, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And I decided to ask them, is that the main reason why you're a vegan? Like, are you a vegan because you are just mainly against the cruelty towards animals in a factory farming sense? And they said, yeah, that's basically why they were vegan. They don't love the idea of killing and eating animals, and they really hate the idea of factory farming, so they didn't want to eat meat because of those reasons, or animal products because of those reasons. So I thought that that was a rather reasonable thing to think, until they said to me something that kind of got stuck in my craw a little bit. And that was that they thought that people who didn't eat vegan, who just go out and buy like $2 Walmart steaks because they're cheap, they hated how people would do that, because they thought that individuals should be doing better than just going out and buying the cheapest food because reasons. I guess they could be trying harder to be better for the environment or whatever. And I said to them, you know, it's actually quite depressing that you would say something like that, because up until this point, I actually really agreed with a lot of the things that you're saying. Factory farming is terrible. The way that we commodify the meat and dairy industry and animals in general is just disgusting. And we definitely do need to work towards having more sustainable resources for food and that sort of thing. But I don't agree with the idea that these people that are buying $2 Walmart steaks are necessarily any kind of problem whatsoever, because these people that are buying these $2 steaks are buying them because they don't have enough money to buy anything else. They're kind of stuck in this situation where they have no choice but to buy the cheapest food that they have available to them. And sometimes it's not necessarily even about the money, it's about the time. So when you work 14, 15 hours a day and you come home to the kids, you might look at McDonald's as being a very viable source of your food, because you can't get food really anywhere else. Like I said in a couple of previous videos, we live in a society where we're surrounded by food deserts. If you're in a poorer area, you're surrounded by all of this food that is completely void of nutrition. And you see that all the time. So there are a lot of people that are unhealthy because of all of this. And I said to them, I don't think that the individual is necessarily the problem here. And they agreed with me, so they're like, yeah, okay, I understand. That is a fairly good point. But you know what? The people who can afford it and still don't, and still decide to eat meat or whatever it is, they are actually the problem. If you can afford to do so, then you probably should, because we have to be doing more as individuals to change this system. And I said to them, well, you know, I somewhat agree with you. I mean, sure, if you as an individual can afford to be going vegan, and you can afford the time it takes to make vegan meals or make different choices, then sure, you can make those different choices if it makes you feel better. But we have to be getting away from this fiction, this idea that somehow individual action is going to make systemic changes within the system, because fundamentally they just won't. That's the problem that I have with a lot of liberalism, is that it's just a hollow ideology that believes that if we just change personally as individuals, we can somehow affect the system to such a degree that things will get better. And really, that's kind of an idealistic way of looking at things. It's kind of pie in the sky to think that you doing something like not eating meat individually is going to make any difference whatsoever when it comes to factory farming. The fact of the matter is that factory farming is going to exist regardless if you are able to change all of your friends' minds to turn vegan, because that's the most financially beneficial way for the capitalist industry to make money at the current state, in the current state of things. And unfortunately, if you're somehow able to convince all of your friends to go vegan, and in fact convince everybody to go vegan, that wouldn't change the problem. It would just change the way capitalists go about selling us things. You see, in this system, capitalists do everything they can to recuperate any sort of leftist ideology so long as it sells well. And going vegan definitely does sell. It's the same idea with having whatever kind of diet that you happen to be having, low calorie, low carb, whatever it is. Capitalism does a fantastic job of recuperating those and reselling them back to you. So even if you were to convince everybody to go vegan, you aren't solving the problem, because those same capitalist industries, you're not solving the problem. You still have those same capitalist industries causing all of the world's ills. You still have those, whatever it is, 100 companies producing the majority of the pollution across the entire planet. The idea that we can somehow solve all of the world's problems through consumerism is such an idealistic, liberal way of looking at things that really does cloud the judgment of everybody else that's involved in society. When we think that everything can be solved with this easy solution, an easy answer to all of these problems, it takes away the onus that we would have to actually do things that could make a real difference, like getting in the streets and doing direct action. And that's really what we have to be doing here. We can't convince ourselves with this collective delusion that individual action is going to make any societal difference whatsoever, because it won't. Not until we actually get together collectively and make those changes ourselves will we actually see any sort of solution to this problem. At least that's the way I look at it. If you do get a chance, please check out my Patreon. Every dollar does help fund this show. And thanks for watching.